In 1971, a family moved into a quiet farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island. Within days, they began hearing whispers, soft, distant, coming from the walls. The clock stopped at 3:07 a.m. Doors opened on their own. And at night, something walked through their home that wasn't alive. This is the real true story behind The Conjuring, the case that made Ed and Lorraine Warren famous paranormal investigators and nearly destroyed the family who lived it. Roger and Carolyn Perron were ordinary, hard-working parents with 5 daughters: Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April. Roger drove trucks for a living. Carolyn stayed home, teaching her girls and tending to their new property, a colonial-era farmhouse known as the Arnold Estate. Built in 1736, the house had seen 8 generations come and go. Locals warned them, that house has history. On the first morning, the moving truck groaned up the long dirt drive. The air was damp, thick with the smell of thawing snow and old timber. Inside, dust floated in shafts of light. The wallpaper peeled like dry skin. The floors moaned beneath every step. As the girls explored, they found a narrow door beside the kitchen leading to a root cellar. When Carolyn pulled the latch, a rush of cold air spilled out heavy with the scent of iron and earth. Their dog, Sadie, froze at the top of the steps, fur raised. She wouldn't move. That night, while Roger unloaded boxes, Carolyn heard something heavy drag across the kitchen floor. When she turned, nothing had moved, only her reflection in the dark glass and the faint sound of breathing behind her. At first, it was easy to blame the age of the house. Keys went missing. Roger's tools reappeared in different rooms. The broom Carolyn used daily would vanish for hours, then stand upright in the middle of the hall. Then came the cold. Rooms would drop 10 degrees without warning. The girls' blankets slid off their beds in the middle of the night. Every clock in the house stopped at 3:07 a.m. Then, tragedy. One morning, the family found Sadie lying by the barn, stiff, eyes open, no wounds. The vet said her heart had stopped suddenly. From that night on, the parents locked every door before bed. But locks didn't stop what was coming. It started with the girls. Andrea, the eldest, woke to see a tall shadow standing at the foot of her bed. When she blinked, it was gone, but the air smelled of rotting meat and sulfur. Cindy would wake up crying, whispering, "It knows my name." And little April began talking to a boy named Rory, an invisible friend who she said lived by the water. When Roger asked where she met him, April pointed toward the old stone well behind the barn. When Roger looked, the well was half collapsed, choked with moss. He sealed it off the next morning. That night, April whispered, "Rory says he's hiding again." Then came the night every door in the house slammed at once. Plates rattled, windows shook, and for a full 10 seconds, the whole house vibrated like it was alive. When silence fell, Carolyn began keeping a notebook of dates, times, every strange smell and sound. She told Roger quietly, "Something here doesn't want us here." Curiosity became survival. Carolyn spent hours at the local library digging through property records. What she found read like a curse. For more than 2 centuries, the Arnold family had lived and died on that land. One woman hanged herself in the barn. Another drowned in the nearby creek. A child's body was found behind the house, cause of death unknown. But one name appeared over and over: Bathsheba Sherman. Bathsheba lived nearby in the mid-1800s, married to a farmer named Judson Sherman. Rumor said she'd offered her infant to the devil a sewing needle through the baby's skull, though no evidence ever proved it. Still, Bathsheba was branded a witch. When she died in 1885, locals claimed her body turned to stone before hitting the floor. Her grave still stands in Harrisville Cemetery, her name nearly erased. After learning her story, Carolyn began seeing her. A woman with grey, cracked skin and a broken neck, standing by the fireplace, staring. Andrea said every time the apparition appeared, the air smelled like sulfur. April told her sisters, "Rory's afraid of her." Whatever Bathsheba was, Andrea later said, she wanted my mother gone. By 1973, the family was unraveling. They barely slept. Roger's health was failing. Carolyn had grown pale, thin, exhausted. Out of desperation, Carolyn wrote to Ed and Lorraine Warren, a husband and wife team of real-life paranormal investigators from Connecticut. Ed Warren, a former Navy veteran and police officer, called himself a demonologist, one of the first in America to use the term. Lorraine Warren was a clairvoyant and light trance medium who claimed to sense and sometimes communicate with spirits. In 1952, they founded the New England Society for Psychic Research, and by the time they reached Harrisville, they'd handled hundreds of cases, including the one that inspired Annabelle. We will cover that true story in a future video. When Lorraine entered the Perron farmhouse, she said she felt a darkness like nothing I've ever encountered. The Warrens set up tape recorders, cameras, crucifixes, and holy water. They captured cold spots, disembodied voices, and heavy thuds moving from room to room. Lorraine believed Bathsheba's spirit saw Carolyn as a rival mother, a living woman occupying her land. They decided to hold a seance. A seance is a spiritual ritual where people gather to try to communicate with spirits or the dead. The idea dates back to the 1800s spiritualist movement, when mediums claimed they could open a channel between the living and the afterlife. On the night of the seance, the house fell unnaturally still. The daughters waited upstairs. Roger stood by the doorway, unwilling but afraid to interfere. At the kitchen table, Carolyn sat between Ed and Lorraine. A Bible lay open. Lorraine began to pray. The temperature dropped. The lights flickered. Then Carolyn's chair lifted from the ground and hurled backward. Her body arched, eyes rolled white, as a guttural voice not her own growled from deep in her throat. "This is my land." The house erupted. The furniture crashed, glass shattered. One daughter screamed as her hair lifted straight into the air. Lorraine shouted for Ed to stop the ritual. And then silence. When Carolyn awoke, she was bruised, trembling, and had no memory of what had happened. Lorraine told Roger quietly, "Whatever's here wants her dead." The Warrens left, shaken, advising the Perrons to move immediately. They later called it one of the most malevolent hauntings they ever faced. The Perrons lived in that house for nearly 10 years. Each time they tried to move, something went wrong. An accident, sudden illness, or lost income. Some nights were quiet. Others, the smell of rot returned. The girls heard footsteps pacing the hall at 3:07 a.m. Andrea later said, "We learned to live with it. We accepted it was there, but it never stopped watching." In 1980, they finally escaped. Years later, Andrea published House of Darkness, House of Light, a detailed account of the haunting. She said the Conjuring captured only fragments of what really happened. Carolyn rarely spoke publicly afterward, but Andrea said her mother would still wake around 3:07 a.m., whispering that she could hear breathing around her. Carolyn Perron, the mother, withdrew from public life. Her daughter Andrea said that for years afterward, Carolyn would wake in the middle of the night at 3:07 a.m., listening for whispers she could never forget. She lives quietly today, away from the public eye. Roger Perron, once the family's skeptic, grew protective and private after what he witnessed. He rarely speaks about those years, saying only that what happened in that house changed his understanding of everything. The eldest daughter, Andrea Perron, became the storyteller. She wrote House of Darkness, House of Light, a detailed account of the haunting that inspired The Conjuring. She's spoken at universities, paranormal conventions, and on national television not to sensationalize, but to remember. She lives in Georgia, continuing to write and speak about her family's experience. Her sisters Nancy, Christine, and Cindy have chosen mostly silence. They say the haunting shaped who they became, but they prefer to leave it in the past. The youngest, April, who once said she played with the ghostly boy named Rory, sadly passed away in 2017 at just 51 years old. The Arnold Estate, the farmhouse, still stands on Round Top Road in Harrisville, Rhode Island. Today, it's privately owned and open to researchers and visitors brave enough to stay the night. Many say the house still feels alive, that the air still grows cold around 3:07 a.m., and doors still open by themselves. For the Perrons, the haunting was never about ghosts or fame. It was about a family trying to live in a home that refused to forget its past. And though they finally escaped its walls, a part of that house and what happened inside it will always live with them. Skeptics call it folklore. Believers call it proof. But the Perron haunting remains one of the most documented paranormal cases in American history, and the investigation that defined Ed and Lorraine Warren's legacy. Hollywood turned it into The Conjuring, but behind every scream, every shadow, was a real family. Roger and Carolyn Perron, their 5 daughters, and a house that haunted them. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, what happened in Harrisville still haunts everyone who steps through that farmhouse door.
Even in retrospect, none of us have been able to free ourselves from.
Thank you for watching. If you want to uncover the true story behind Annabelle, leave a like and a comment on this video. As we dive deeper into other real-world hauntings and unsolved mysteries, click one of the videos appearing on your screen. Don't forget to subscribe, tap the bell icon, and join me next time for another true story that is just like this one.